Hi folks, this is Melissa from Thrasher Golf. Today we're going to go over some troubleshooting tips if you're having some troubles with your Twister 1 ball washer, and see if we can walk you through identifying either a cheap, no-cost fix, or whether or not you need to replace a few parts just to kind of keep the ball washer working at optimum potential. So first things first, always drain the water before you work on the ball washer, and then first things first, remove the ball washer from power. Unplug it. So you unplug your long cord from the power source, drain the water, and unplug the motor from the on-off switch. Okay? Lift up your top. And one of the first things that you can, if you're having trouble with jamming, balls are jamming for one of three reasons. Either these rods here, and we'll get to this in a second, these rods are bent out of shape a little bit, or your brush is worn, or your spiral is worn. So let's talk about a few kind of troubleshooting tips. So what you'll see, if your balls are jamming, essentially you dumped all your balls in, this whole spiral is loaded with balls, and they're stopped right here at this exit spot. If that's the case, then there's a couple of tricks. So the no-cost fix that you should always try first is to take the end of a wrench, stick the round side over, and make sure that these rods are bent into the brush. It just takes a little adjustment, but you want to make sure that they are kind of set into the brush so that they're not stopping the balls from coming through. You just push down just a little bit, do it real gentle so that the ends are down, and now the balls have every opportunity to just flow right out. Okay, so we've adjusted our rods. If you notice that that does not necessarily fix your problem, or if the balls are traveling through the spiral and are not actually even getting to these rods, then we know that it's probably the brush or the spiral. So a couple ways to test it. If it's been a few years since you've changed your brush, that's where we recommend you would start. The brush is responsible for propelling those balls through the spiral, so if it's worn, those balls may not be getting all the way through the spiral. The other way to identify whether or not you should look at replacing your spiral versus your brush, if you've had your ball washer for a few years, 5 or more, let's say, and you can feel on the edges here of the spiral if it's sharp or not, that's probably a good indication that your spiral is worn pretty well, and it may be time to change that spiral. We recommend, starting with first adjusting the rods, then checking the brush, and then, if absolutely necessary, going to the spiral. Hopefully that'll resolve some of your jamming issues if you're having any trouble. Hi folks, Melissa here from Thrasher Golf. Wanted to talk with you about what's happening if your balls are falling into the tank on the Twister 1 ball washer. So first things first, safety first, remove the ball washer from the electrical connection and drain the water. You're pulling this long cord from the wall unit and then detaching these two shorter cords, detaching the power to the on-off switch, and lifting the cover up. So if you know that not all your balls are coming out of the ball washer and you find some at the bottom of the tank, there's a pretty good indication that there may be a couple things that we can do to help you that will hopefully not cost anything. So what happens generally is when the balls are coming through, this tab that's here is supposed to push the ball far enough over so that it rides between the first two grooves of the spiral, like so. Okay, but what happens sometimes is that this tab is adjusted a little bit off, and what will happen is that the ball will ride along the edge of this first spiral, following all the way around, and it'll come all the way underneath, and it'll actually get stuck right here. and then every ball that follows after that generally drops into the tank, and that's why you're having some of these the balls dropping into the tank. So we're going to walk you through how to work on that and fix that, but this is the biggest indicator. If you see a ball that's stuck right in that position, then generally these two tabs are something that you'll have to adjust. Okay, so to adjust these tabs, what we do is use a long screwdriver and try and kind of get it rested in onto this first spiral where it's welded on, and then just lift the screwdriver just a little bit, and you can see it kind of wobble a little bit. So you just want to adjust that tab just like 1/8 of an inch, not a whole lot, just a real tiny adjustment. This tab here should be adjusted after you take off the chain guard, and you can kind of do the same thing by lifting on it. If you don't take the chain guard off, and you're going to put pressure on this one to lift it up, so it's going to come towards where the balls enter. If you don't do it, you're going to break your chain guard, and you don't want to do that, but just take the chain guard off and use the screwdriver to kind of pry it up just a little bit, and that should help the balls from dropping into the bottom of the tank.